Hello, comrades and peers. It's time for Soldiers of Napoleon. I've read this work carefully, had my first test games, and read some things again. This was some form of tough nut. For many reasons, most of this are explained in the course. But I would like to mention a few others at the beginning. First of all, the army lists are for 1813 and 1815 respectively, the end of the empire, and you can see that in the army lists. The glorious French army of the past will be delivered later. On the other hand, some of the rules relates to the upcoming campaign system, which can be found in the supplementary books too. I would have liked to know the rest for a correct evaluation, but so we have to wait and see. In these rules you are in command of an army division. Units are battalions, grouped in brigades. Mostly this represents a portion of a larger battle, with the bigger picture sometimes shadowing your part of it. For instance, a corps or army commander can show up and give you an advantage in getting reserves on the field. This is card-driven Yugo-Aigo mechanic, which results in an interesting dynamic. More on this later, but we begin with a look at the rulebook. The rulebook is divided in 3 parts. The first, basic concept and main rules, includes a bunch of rules. The second chapter, battles and battlefields, adds rules for generating terrain, rules for buildings, deployment, and the pregame phase. The last, armies and theaters, includes the army lists, but additionally the rules for commanders, special units, and multiplayer games. As you may have noticed, the rules are a bit distributed across the chapters. This is no exception, as certain rules within the chapter are also broken down and not repeated when the second part appears. For example, charging. The order section determines who can declare charge. The special events section gives a bit later some exceptions, and the section on charge itself never mentions which unit can charge. So in-game you have to do some searching. Unfortunately, the index also only contains part of the reference to a rule. On the other hand, 12 pages are allocated to the history of the Sixth Coalition War. Now to the game itself. Each player gets handed 2 cards, plus 1 for each brigade commander on the field, so normally 4 to 5 on each side. This can be played to command 1 brigade, rally 1 brigade, or for a special event. If a player has fewer cards than his opponent, he can also pass. Special events have an additional chance to allow the play of another card. If you activate the same brigade twice in a row, each of its units gets a point of disruption. Disruptions are the wounds in this game, and a unit with more disruption as bases at the end of a turn is routed. Units consist normally of 2 to 6 bases. This gives their fighting power and their toughness or staying power. Fast crossing difficult terrain or quick marches also generate disruption. Units can adapt the usual formations: line, attack column and march column. Infantry can form square and extended line, a sort of skirmish formation of light infantry battalions. It's also a formation change to deploy a skirmisher screen. Skirmish screens and the like are crucial in these rules. To understand this, you have to take a look at movement and firing range. A unit line moves 4 paces, in attack column 6 paces. But firing range is 10 for muskets and 20 paces for skirmisher screens. This means even cavalry must first cross this fire field to be able to attack and will take damage. To counter this, light cavalry has the order harass to chase back skirmisher screens, and heavy cavalry can intimidate units, and so cause 1 point of disruption, both with a range of 20 paces. So there is a battle of approach before units get into charge range. Another vital point in this game, units with more disruption as bases are routed and destroyed at the end of a turn. Here comes the possibility to rally before this end of a turn. If a card for rally is played on a brigade, units can fall back to lose disruption. They can too throw a d6 per point of disruption, lose 1 point on a 6. And lastly, they can discard a base of their unit to lose 2 points of disruption. Well coordinated, this can restore units that were previously taking significant damage. The opponent gets victory points for rally, which seems a bit implausible at first, but necessary to limit the significant effect. Otherwise, the game would take much longer. Now something about the mentioned victory points. Each army calculates its breakpoint based on the number and quality of its units. The side that reaches the opponent's breakpoint with their victory points wins. Victory points are generated by destroying units, rallying of the enemy, and battle objects. Battle objects are special event cards which are put aside as action, to later, when their trigger is completed, generate victory points, like hold the line or take the high ground. I think those are the most important elements of this game. When the gears mesh in the test game, we get an interesting result. The game develops slowly if you have space, a pretty dance. Units attack, suffer, retreat, regroup, and charge again. This really feels Napoleonic. The I Go You Go converts into a more complex turn order as the special events are played. Messengers can be lost, coordination in the powder vapor fails, or you can put an objective by side and so allow the opponent to act twice. The problem is really evaluating this game fairly. It seems a bit muddled. The mechanics actually fit, but the layout makes it harder than it needs to be. In no game have I had to search for so many rules, not finding them. Trifles. On the quick reference sheet, firing ranges were forgotten. Why do the Allies shoot better than the French? Everyone has Jäger, except them. No voltigeurs either. Why are there special rules for rifles? But artillery is all the same, but in range. There are rules to random generate terrain and sophisticated army point lists, a bit GW style. But this isn't a fast and casual game. It has depth. One really has a suspicion that something is still missing here to round off the impression. I think it's really a good game once you know the rules and when the other periods are released. But since you need a lot of figures, mostly 6 bases per battalion, it is not necessarily something for newcomers, unless you can live with counters. The game seems to aim to be a casual one, while maintaining the level of complexity one would expect from historical games. But the sheepskin just doesn't quite fit. Maybe I'll do another update when the rule system is complete. So much for Soldiers of Napoleon. I put a vote into the community area which system should be dealt with next. General d'Armée seems to be the clear winner. So this will be the next. Thanks for voting and watching. Till then.